Proofing a thesis statement. To prove a thesis statement, you have to be sure that that thesis statement is able to focus and control an essay. So we do that by first looking at our prompt and making sure that our thesis statement answers that question or that prompt. So let's look at this one. Our actual prompt says, write an essay explaining the benefits of living in a small town. So does our thesis statement answer that question? Let's read our thesis statement. It is the lack of traffic and the wide open spaces that call Americans across the nation to enjoy the attributes of small town living. So benefits of living show up in our thesis statement here where it says attributes. We also notice that in our thesis statement, those benefits that we're going to be discussing are lack of traffic and wide open spaces. Does this talk about a small town? Here in our thesis statement, it talks about small town living. So yes, we have proved our thesis statement. Our thesis statement does answer this question. The next step in proving our thesis statement occurs after we write the essay. So let's read this essay first and see if this thesis statement controls and guides this essay, maintaining that focus throughout. Living in a small town. Imagine getting up at 4 or 5 in the morning, sitting in bumper-to-bumper traffic, listening to horns blaring and sirens splitting the air just to make an hour-and-a-half drive across town to school or work. Making this drive, surrounded by maniacal drivers on all sides, gives me claustrophobic hives that only a prescriptive daily dose of my hometown can cure. It is this cure, a lack of traffic and wide open space inherent in a small town, that calls to both me and my fellow Americans across the nation. Because I answered the call of small town living, I now enjoy short and peaceful drives to and from work. After sleeping until 7 o'clock a.m., I pull out on the country road that takes me through the center of town, a practically deserted four-way stop sign, enjoying the crisp open air, the sound of silence escorting me to my destination. These precious moments of serenity prepare me for the chaos of my workday. When my work is done, I again enter into the arms of blessed stillness as I make the 5-minute drive home, where I can now spend my time with my feet propped up, a cup of hot chocolate in my hand, and my mind feasting on the rest of my day. When I reach the bottom of my cup, the wide open space I call my backyard lures me outdoors. With the wind running fingers through my hair, an exuberant laugh escaping into the open sky, and a thrill of adrenaline pumping through my veins, I ride my four-wheeler under the vibrant canopy of the sun, not even thinking of how much better this is than sitting in my car in big city traffic. As the four-wheeler bounces and bucks over the hills, careens around the trees, and skates along the fence line, my only thought is that horseback riding is next. For some Americans, this lifestyle is only a dream, but for me and many of my compadres, it is a lifetime prescription we plan to have refilled and refilled and refilled. So let's begin by looking at the thesis statement. It occurs in the last sentence of the first paragraph. It is this cure, a lack of traffic and wide open space inherent in a small town, that calls to both me and my fellow Americans across the nation. Now you'll notice that this has been revised from what you saw on the previous screen because I formatted this thesis statement before I wrote my essay. But after I wrote my essay, I realized that in order to tie my ideas together, I had to rearrange that thesis statement just a little bit. So now that I've rearranged it, I need to double check. Does this actually guide my essay? Do I maintain that focus throughout the essay? So first, let's examine the benefits. My thesis statement that is going to talk about the benefit of a lack of traffic and wide open space. So the first one is a lack of traffic. So when I look at that, I expect to see in my first body paragraph that this paragraph, the whole paragraph, will be about that one benefit, a lack of traffic. So let's check it out. Let's look for keywords and see if this paragraph actually talks about that lack of traffic. So when I examine it, I see that it talks about the peaceful drive to and from work. It talks about how in the center of town there's a four-way stop sign that's practically deserted. It talks about the sound of silence that escorts me to my destination. It talks about the moments of serenity, the blessed stillness as I drive home. So yes, this paragraph is about that lack of traffic. My next benefit is wide open space. And so as I read my second body paragraph, I expect for that entire paragraph to be about the wide open space. So let's read that paragraph and look for keywords. So as I look for keywords that deal with wide open space, one of the first things I see in the very first sentence is wide open space. I also see that it talks about outdoors, again, referring back to that wide open space. Open sky. I see not big city traffic. Well, what does not being in big city traffic have to do with wide open space? I was using this as a contrast, but I didn't do a good job because I don't see the connection to that wide open space. So what I might want to do is add in the word congested to show that difference between wide open space and the fact that big city traffic gives you that congestion. And so everybody's all close together. Also see that you can go over hills, you can careen around trees, and there's room to go horseback riding in this wide open space. So this paragraph is about wide open space. The next thing I need to do is go back to my thesis statement, because remember that this is supposed to be about living in a small town, the benefits of living in a small town. So can I identify the small town living in those body paragraphs and throughout my essay? So let's look in the first body paragraph. The first thing I see here is small town living. Let's look at the next body paragraph. You know what? I look at the second body paragraph and I don't see it mention small town living anywhere. So I need to add something in that indicates I'm talking about the open space and small town living. What if I just added in right here in front of horseback riding? What if I said this small town girl will be horseback riding next? That'll make sure I end with that reference to small town, bringing my focus back to my thesis statement. Now then, let's look at the last paragraph, the conclusion. When I look at the conclusion, is it talking about the small town? When it says this lifestyle, again, it is referring to the small town. So yes, this thesis statement guides this essay. By going through the proofing process, I was able to identify errors in the focus of body paragraph 2. So let's read the second body paragraph to double check its coherence. When I reach the bottom of my cup, the wide open space I call my backyard lures me outdoors. With the wind running fingers through my hair, an exuberant laugh escaping into the open sky, and a thrill of adrenaline pumping through my veins, I ride my four-wheeler under the vibrant canopy of the sun, not even thinking of how much better this is than sitting in my car in congested big city traffic. As the four-wheeler bounces and bucks over the hills, careens around the trees, and skates alongside the fence line, my only thought is that this small town girl will be horseback riding next. Yes, this paragraph retains its coherence, and now it is obviously controlled by the thesis statement. So let's review the proofing process. Proof 1. Does the thesis statement answer the prompt or question? If it does, then we can move on to proof 2. Proof 2. Does the thesis statement control the focus of the essay? If the thesis statement does control the focus of the essay, then the thesis statement has done its job.